Todd, thanks for joining us. What did you make of Collinsworth with Deshaun Watson going forward to Jacksonville?
It's interesting. I don't expect it to happen, but I'm not going to be overly surprised by much when it comes to these quarterbacks. I don't. It's been about 15 years of doing this, and I don't know that I've ever been this close to the actual draft and had less of a feel of where the quarterbacks in the first round are going to go. I mean, I hear with Pat Mahomes from Texas Tech, I grade him out as a second-round quarterback. I know some guys in the league have him second, third round, but there are some teams that clearly from intel that we're getting and talking to guys that view him a lot higher. And people are saying he might even go in the top 10, 15 picks in the draft. And so Deshaun Watson, I've heard that Chicago has a little bit of interest, that Jacksonville, we're not sure if they're going to stick with Bortles, but they have a little bit of interest. I've heard San Francisco likes Mitch Trubisky coming out of North Carolina, but maybe they don't want to spend that number 2 overall pick on him. And then you've got Cleveland sitting there at 12 looking for a quarterback, and the Jets at 6 looking for a quarterback. And it just creates a lot of unknown because I don't think any of these quarterbacks truly belong in the top 10. But we know that position and how it just drives up the value.
All right, how does Cleveland get this right?
Take Myles Garrett, the defensive end from Texas A&M. Take him at 1. Take the best player on the board. And then I would personally try to get creative and package picks. I'm not a big fan of moving up. I would much rather take some deals from teams that are panicked and trying to move up for one player and take advantage of that and get multiple picks, especially in this draft where you have really good second, third, fourth round value. But when you need a quarterback, it's a different deal. I think if there's one that they really like, even though you don't want to be taking one in the top 10, but if you've already gotten Myles Garrett at 1, I would package some of the picks that they have, and they've got a bunch. They pick at 1, 12, 33, 52, and 65 overall. I would try to package a couple of those picks and go up ahead of maybe the Jets. Tennessee's shown with Robinson, their general manager, the willingness to move back. Maybe they do it again this year and go up there and go get Trubisky, if that's your guy, Watson, if that's your guy, whoever it is. I would go and take another crack at it because I don't think that they have the starting quarterback of the future for the Cleveland Browns already on their roster right now.
What is your one big question of Mitchell Trubisky?
Inexperience is probably the biggest thing because just the 13 starts, which we've heard a million times, but it's real. I'm sick of saying it. I'm sick of saying he only has 13 starts, but you see it in his play. A little bit of the inconsistency, not seeing the entire field. The Stanford game, the 2 interceptions he threw, he just didn't see backside coverage or a safety working over the top, and those are things with more game experience that he'll start to see. The game will, the cliche slow down, and he'll see more of the field and understand, most importantly, what defenses are trying to do to him before they actually do it. But I'll be honest, too, his tape, he grew on me. I thought his tape of all these quarterbacks was the best and most consistent from this past year. He's got a great feel inside the pocket, really good poise. He's got a quick release, gets the ball out. He can throw with anticipation and hit spots. And he's very mobile. I mean, he can buy a lot of extra time, too. So I think he's the complete package physically. It's just the lack of experience. And then what is he as a leader? He seems very kind of dry and, good approach, works hard and does all the right things, but does he have that presence to him? And I'm not saying he doesn't, but a lot of people I talk to who have been around him like him, but you see Jameis Winston in a room, and yes, he has his issues, but everyone flocks to him, and he's a great and just natural leader, and there are a lot of guys like that. With Trubisky, I think it's a little bit of an unknown.
How do you know you're not being lied to?
I have 3 people in the league that I know for sure are not lying to me. Everybody else is lying to me in some way, shape, or form. and I've become really close friends, and I've known the 3 guys for a long time, and so I trust them. And I'll ask sometimes questions. Most of the time, I won't even bother them with stuff that I know that they don't want to talk to me about because I don't want to put them in a spot. But if I ask them something, every once in a while I'll say, you know what, I can't go there. But everything else they tell me is true, and so you learn to rely on that. Other people, for the most part, talking generalities or just talking players, and I know that they're being honest with their assessment, but they're very rarely, hey, who are you taking with that pick? Those questions to me are just, they don't make sense. And once you get past the third pick, as you alluded to with the mock drafts, if there's one trade and something moves around, everything can completely change. It's a completely different picture than what you expected when you're on the board, let's say at number 5 or 6 overall. So who they say they're going to take and who's available at that point are two very different situations.
He's Todd McShay, NFL draft analyst. Tonight, SportsCenter special, Mel Kiper, draft expert, and Todd, mock draft at 7 Eastern with your host, Trey Wingo. Trey, of course, hosting the draft this year instead of Chris Berman. But you start to look at guys when they move up, and I always view it as the media puts players in a place, and then the scouts come back and hit the reset button, and then we go, oh, right. Guys moving up, oh, guys moving down, when in reality, they're not moving up or down as much as the scouts are just paying attention to it, where Christian Hackenberg, man, he's going to be the number 1 pick, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe not. How do we get to this point where we look at these mock drafts, and then you get to a point where you go, okay, this I feel like is a true mock draft as opposed to one that you may have put out last year or 6 months ago?
Well, I just finished the last of 350 evaluations last week. I mean, I'm talking 4 days ago. And I didn't, in the preseason we do about 100 or so players and evaluate them on tape and try to get a baseline for their evaluation. But then there are 250 players that we're going to wind up evaluating, and we haven't even looked at, and we don't start till December. So I started watching tape when the college football season's over, and people are moving up and down because I'm going in and putting a grade on them that is reflective of what I'm evaluating. And people are saying, how is someone moving up or down when he's not even playing football? Well, I just got to his evaluation, and it's a long process. And so as the process goes for me, my evaluation and player grades wind up changing based on when I wind up doing that individual player and that position. And so and then you go through the process of collecting information, usually in April. Early April, I start with the character and durability that just didn't know about. And then you've got in the middle of the month, the combine recheck for the injuries and durability. And so there's a lot of information that floods in the final few weeks with the character and durability that has nothing to do with who they are as football players. I mean, there are 10 guys right now in my top 20. I don't know where they're going to wind up falling just because there's some off-the-field issues or some durability issues. I think Jonathan Allen from Alabama is one of the 3 best players in this entire draft. But there are some teams that are really concerned about his shoulders. Yeah. And so where does he wind up falling? Dalvin Cook is arguably the best back in this class if you're just basing it off of tape coming out of Florida State. But there's some serious character concerns in terms of who he surrounds himself with and what's going to happen when you give him more fame, free time, and money than he's ever had before. And you worry about that, and teams are worried about that. And every team I've been talking to recently says, you know what, Dalvin Cook's going to slip a little bit and could wind up being the 3rd or 4th running back taken when he should be probably a top 15 pick.
If Jared Goff was in this draft, where would he go?
He would be based off the evaluation coming in, I would guess that he would be, in my opinion, I had him as the 2nd best quarterback last year, and I would have him right there. I would have him ahead of Trubisky. He would be the 2nd quarterback taken too, if Wentz was in this class as well. If not, then he probably, based off my evaluation, would be, from a year ago, would be the 1st quarterback taken just ahead of Trubisky.
What about running backs? I know McCaffrey, this is one of those that, hey, he might slip into the end of the 1st round, and now all of a sudden he's now 15, or maybe he's even higher than that. So what is it that McCaffrey is offering here that he suddenly was at the end of the 1st round, now he could be in the mid-1st round?
I think there are a couple things. I think, first of all, as the process has gone on and through workouts and evaluating his tape and the realization, he's a guy that, yes, you're going to give 10 or so carries to a game, but you also can legitimately put him in the slot. And I think he's one of the 2 or 3 best slot receivers in this class. So now that's an added element. And I think as coaches got more and more involved in the scouting process, they stopped looking at it like some of the scouts said, who cares if we don't want to give him more than 10 carries a game. We can put him out at in the slot receiver spot, not worry about him in pass protection, which is probably his biggest weakness as a football player. When we're going to throw the ball, we're going to have him out in the slot. We're going to create mismatches like New England has done for years with their, smaller receivers and running backs, hybrid guys, and take advantage of them that way. And if we want to use them in the return game, we can too. The other part is the combine workout. You want to see numbers that are as good as what you see on tape, and they were even better. They were exceptional. So kind of check that box and caught some eyes. And I think thirdly, and really importantly at this point of the process, the clean guys with no off-the-field issues, wind up moving up because as a general manager sitting there say, who's the good guy I'm going to take or I'm not going to lose my job because he's going to be a bust and out of the league and we blew it on that pick. And I think McCaffrey, in terms of you sleeping at night, knowing that you got a player that's going to contribute, loves the game, and is going to show up with an unbelievable work ethic and passion for the game, he's one of the 5 players in this draft that you have no concern about.
What if I gave you the first-round quarterbacks taken, and I get everybody else, and then 5 years from now we look back to say who made the smarter bet on who was going to be a better quarterback? Would you take the quarterbacks that are going in the first round or all the other quarterbacks who will be drafted?
I'd take the field.
Okay.
I would.
So would I.
I've said before, I'd rather take Josh Dobbs if I could get him coming out of Tennessee in the 3rd round and not have any pressure. First time in his life, this guy's a genius. And the first time in his life, he's actually going to be able to focus fully on football and sit him down for a year or so, keep working with him, and also be able to use my first 2 picks on other guys that will help and improve our supporting cast and take a chance on Dobbs than I would use the top 10 pick on Trubisky or Deshaun Watson or certainly Pat Mahomes, who I think is unbelievably talented, but would be a strip down and build back up type of project.
Before I let you go, if you and Mel Kiper got into a fist fight on the air, how would it play out?
Oh, please, Dan. Come on, that's insulting.
Oh, boy. Man,
Kiper's, he's losing a step.
Really?
Him,
wow.
That wouldn't last.
Wow.
That wouldn't last long.
Breaking news. Mel Kiper's lost a step, according to Todd McShay. You may get lost in his hair.
He eats pumpkin pie for breakfast every day. His lunch is a Milky Way. I mean, I told him yesterday, I can't believe he's still alive.
Yeah, but he might have pumpkin pie for breakfast and a candy bar for lunch, but he's having you for dinner.
That's what he thinks, right?
All right. Well, play nice next week, okay?
We will. Always do.
Thank you, bud. Thank you, Todd.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.